There's one career mistake I made that I see almost every backend developer about to repeat. I made this mistake in 2015 and it cost me 3 years, and I'm watching backend developers I respect make the exact same mistakes I made. They're using AI to write code faster, but they're ignoring the layer underneath it. You know, Claude Code, Codex, you name it. They think AI is something that helps them type when it's actually something rebuilding what backend engineering even is. The same way I thought Docker was just a packaging tool when it was actually rewriting how we deploy software for the next decade. I swore I would never be on the wrong side of one of those windows again. Well, here we are, even a bigger window, different decade. I wanted to make this video specifically because I cannot watch this happen again without saying something. So let's get into it. Backend engineering is currently in a weird pattern. I've spoken on this before, but every 5 to 7 years, it absorbs an adjacent skill set. The role you signed up for on year 1 is not the role you're going to be doing in year 5. And if you see the absorption happening before it comes, you get like a 2 or 3 year head start on everyone else, which in backend development is basically cheating. 2026 is the AI absorption window. LinkedIn's 2026 Job on the Rise report listed AI engineering as the fastest growing role in the entire market. And when you read those job descriptions carefully, they're looking for backend developers who know what they're doing and that also happen to know AI. That's the entire shift. You already have 80% of the skill. The 20% that's missing is the absorption. And on top of these new skills, there's also new tools that are changing the way we write code. There's Claude Code, Codex, Open Code, OpenClaw, you name it. All of these tools are designed with AI automation in mind. But the first thing that they're trying to automate is certain areas of writing code. And here's the part that makes this whole pattern somewhat dangerous. The cliff is never gradual. It feels gradual from the inside, but looking back, it's shockingly sudden. 1 quarter, your skills are totally fine. 1 year later, the company is deciding who's future-proof, and you don't want to be on the wrong side of who's future-proof and who's not with companies like Meta, who just currently laid off 8,000 people. This is the exact same thing that I missed in 2015. I had a coworker telling me Docker was the future. I had job postings starting to show up with Docker preferred. I had blog posts in my feed that kept saying containers were going to change everything. And I just kept telling myself, I'll get to it later. I had 2 years of grace period that I could have learned Docker, but instead I just decided not to. By the time I actually started learning Docker and Kubernetes, the cliff had already hit and I was behind trying to catch up because I was on a product that needed to containerize their application. Simply, don't be me in 2015. Learn the AI skills now. Okay, so the absorption is happening, right? Here's the part that 95% of backend developers are missing. And I want you to actually pay attention to this one because this is the equivalent of writing the Docker file in 2015. The AI models are basically converged, right? Like we have Claude Opus, we have GPT, we have Gemini. They're all really good now. You can barely tell them apart on most benchmarks. So if the models aren't the difference anymore, what is? Well, it's the layer that's wrapped around the model, the harness, if you will, the tool layer, the thing that turns a model into something useful at work. And that's where the backend opportunity is hiding. Here's why this matters for backend engineers specifically. The agent harness layer is already a multi-billion-dollar market, and it's projected to grow roughly 28 times over the next decade. The infrastructure underneath that harness, the tools the agents call, the APIs they hit, the products they speak, that's all simply backend development. It's the same job you already do, just with a new consumer. The protocol that's emerging as a standard is MCP, Model Context Protocol. One protocol, every model, every harness. You define your database query tool once, your deploy status tool once, maybe your log search tool once, and any agent that speaks MCP can use any of them. This is the new API surface for backend developers, and this is for 2026 and the future. And most backend devs are sleeping on it because it sounds just like another protocol they have to learn. It is not just another protocol, right? It's the layer where the next decade of backend work lives. And I want to be just completely transparent about something. If you would have asked me in 2015 to write a Docker file, I probably would have rolled my eyes. I would have said, we already had the configuration management. Why do I need to do this? Truly, it would have taken me like a weekend to learn. But instead, I just refused for 2 years. Building one MCP tool right now is the exact same energy. It will take you a weekend. It will feel unnecessary if you don't see where the puck is going. And the people who do it this month will be the ones that are leading teams or agents in 2028. And I'm going to demonstrate how to use MCP right now to automate a product that I've built. And like I've mentioned multiple different times, backend development is changing. The entire landscape is changing from AI engineering, AI coding, and things like MCP, which are tools inside of the AI engineering world. For example, I built this application, which is the Incident Pulse by arcade.dev. Arcade.dev is an MCP runtime to secure your AI agents. It's like really the only MCP runtime for secure, reliable agent deployments. So for example, right here, we have Slack on the left-hand side. We have Notion on the right-hand side. Arcade is pulling the data from both of these spots. So in my Slack channel, we can see right here that we have these messages. That is what these are. And over here, we can see all of our incidents, which are just 5 rows of Notion data. And we have it getting pulled right here. So we are signed in through Arcade. We've authorized both of these tools, which is now allowing Arcade to be the middleman, our authentication and security to pull this data. So for example, we can ask about incidents, generate a root cause analysis or post updates. I'm gonna generate a root cause analysis because what we're doing here is we are like pretending that this is a team talking about some kind of issue that's going on in their application. There's an API latency spike in the US East 1. P95 went from 120 milliseconds to 4.2 seconds. We're going through it. Different people are chatting or pretending to chat about different areas. They found the issue. They rolled it back. Now what we're doing is a root cause analysis based on the incidents. So we are able to look at all the Slack messages, look at what incidents are over here, find which incident that the Slack message is probably talking about, and then shoot a root cause analysis back to the team. Here you can see the root cause analysis, but we can also see that it was sent to our Slack channel right here by me. And that's why Arcade is so powerful. And it's pretty easy to get started with. You just sign into arcade.dev, create an account, add the tools you want to use, get your API key, add it to your project, and then from there, you're pretty much good to go. Every time you add a new tool, it'll ask you to authorize yourself that you are actually allowed to be using that tool. But outside of that, it's pretty easy to use. It's super easy to get started with, but that's the big two. It authenticates and it executes for you. It's like magic when you get it working right. The link is in the description if you want to try it for free. And the repository for this, if you just want to easily set this up for your own application, is also in the description. All right, so let's say after all this, you take my advice. You sit down this weekend and build that MCP tool. Or you start using Claude Code seriously for your day-to-day work. Here's what I need to warn you about. Because if I don't, you might quit in a week or two and then never come back. And that's, in the very beginning, you might feel slower. Not faster, probably slower. And I mean, you will feel faster at first, but not in the long term. And that feeling is going to convince a lot of people to give up. MIT just recently ran one of the biggest studies done on AI coding tools. Over 180,000 developers tracked, and they found something that nobody really talked about. Developers were initially 19% slower with AI tools. The slowdown is real, and the slowdown can be frustrating. People overprompt because they don't trust the output. They rewrite half of what the AI gives because the first pass wasn't quite right. They paste in part of the generated function and manually write the rest. They don't trust the AI to handle anything longer than 20 lines. And all that fighting is exhausting. It feels like you're going backwards. It makes you want to quit and go back to just writing everything yourself. And I know this because I lived it. My first 2 weeks with Claude Code and Codex were genuinely miserable. I literally had a video set up for Codex 1 year ago, April 23rd of 2025, and I'm glad I didn't publish it because I obviously didn't know what the heck I was doing. I just kept switching back to writing things manually because I felt like I was faster that way. I would prompt for something, get 90% of the way there, get frustrated, and just write it myself. This went on for about 12 days. And partially is because of how much there is to learn, because if you don't know all the different tools and all the different configurations, you just feel like you're just kind of tossing it out there. And there's not a ton of information on how to use it right, because we're all trying to learn it together right now. The moment that it really clicked for me was when I tried to stop controlling every output and instead build a workflow with it, like an orchestration of agents. Once I started doing that, I stopped being slower. By week 6, I was probably 2 or 3 times faster on certain kinds of work, but I had to push through 12 miserable days to get there. And on the reverse side, the MIT also found this. After the ramp up period, the same developers hit 18% faster. So the full swing is a total of 37% points, from 19% slower to 18% faster. That's really like an enormous gap when you're thinking about it. But here's what kills most people when they're trying to do this. That ramp up feels bad. Like after you lose your velocity and you go down 19% and then you start getting quicker, you start to feel dumb. You feel like you're losing a skill that you've spent so long learning. And right at that exact moment, a lot of engineers can quit. This is a different version of the mistake I made in 2015. I didn't even try Docker. I dismissed it before the slowdown, if you will, could start. But for everyone who actually did try Docker in 2015 and bounced off, the issue was the same. The people who pushed through it became the engineers who could ship anything by 2018. The people who quit, in week 2, told themselves containers were not the future, and then ended up getting left behind. Here's another stat that I want you to actually pause and reflect on, because it's the entire opportunity sitting in just one number. And it explains why most companies have adopted AI haven't really seen any huge results. When companies bolt, I'm literally talking with tools, bolt AI onto their existing workflow, they get about a 5% productivity lift. When they redesign the workflow around AI from scratch, they can get a productivity increase up to 30%. That's a 6 times multiplier. And only a small fraction of companies are actually doing the redesign part. Everyone else is bolting. So if you're looking for where the opportunity gap is right now, it's literally sitting in the gap between bolt and redesign. Let me give you maybe a better concrete example. Bolt-on code review workflow. There's going to be an engineer who writes a PR manually, someone that opens it manually. Maybe you're manually tag reviewers. You're going to review it manually, check the continuous integration, manually read the differences, and then manually leave comments. And then engineer manually reaches out to someone to review it. Everything's manual. And the only thing that's different is that you're using Codex or Claude Code in the workflow to help write code. That's just bolting on. All you did was bolt on Claude Code to help write code quicker, but everything else is manual. In the redesign point of view, you might have an agent that drafts the PR based on the ticket context. An agent then runs local tests and fixes the failures itself. Agent requests review with a generated summary of architecture decisions and risks. Human reviewer spot checks the high-risk decisions instead of reading every line. And then the agent auto-rebases and addresses trivial comments. Human only weighs in on the stuff that matters. And that's not just faster, it's structurally different. That's the 30% lift. However, to get that 30% lift, you have to have such a strong fundamental of backend development. The fundamentals are not going away, just the hands on the keyboard typing everything is. The developers who designs that workflow for the team is the engineer who's ultimately going to get promoted in the future. This is the move from 2015 that I should have made. Not just learning Docker, but proposing a restructure of our deploy pipeline around containers. That's what the people who became tech leads did. They redesigned workflows around the tool. I learned the tool 3 years late. I learned it as a follower, not as someone shaping the direction. You don't want to be a follower on this one. Okay, so now in the AI world, there are really 3 specific places you can go that are all, very future-proof that you can start implementing today. So there's door 1, which is the harness builder. This is a door I told you about in section 2. You become a backend engineer who builds on the agent layer, MCP tools, tool servers, agent-ready APIs. You stop thinking of your APIs as serving humans and start thinking of them as serving agents at scale. Most backend developers won't make this shift for 2 or more years. The ones who make it this month or in the next few months are the ones that are positioning for the harness market. That's about $100 billion industry. The opportunity is literally enormous and the entry cost is low. Door 2 is the workflow architect. This is the door I just told you about in section 4. You become the person who redesigns workflows and around agents instead of bolting agents into existing workflows. You write the documents, you pitch the redesign, you earn the 6 times multiplier instead of the 1.05 times bolt-on lift. This door is less about technical skill and more about judgment, right? It's about being the engineer who sees how the work itself should change, not just which tools should be used. Companies are about to discover they desperately need this person, and most teams don't have one. And then there's door 3, which is the AI governance anchor. This one, literally nobody is talking about, and I think it might be the most underrated door out of the 3. As more agents get deployed inside companies, the need for someone who actually understands what all these agents are doing is becoming critical. Who has access? What data leaves the system? What happens when an agent fails and then tries to recall 1,000 times? Then there's the legal side of things. Like whether your agent-driven changes hold up under SOC 2 compliance and auditing. Most companies right now have basically zero formal oversight on agent usage. Shadow AI is real, and it's a growing problem. The backend engineer who steps into that gap, who can explain to security and compliance what the team agents are doing and why, becomes the top person for AI at their company. Nobody wants to do the governance work. This is exactly why it's high leverage, but boring, high leverage work is the best kind of work for a career move. In general, the common thread across all 3 doors is that you move up an abstraction ladder, away from pure implementation and toward judgment, decisions, and context. AI is great at the bottom of the ladder. It's pretty terrible at the top. You don't need to master any of these in a month. The absorption cycle is still like 3 to 5 years away. But the engineers who start walking through one of these doors today will be the ones leading teams by the time it hits. The ones who wait might be scrambling. Until next time.